Hi, Freddie, welcome.
Hi there.
All right, it is 7:04. This is the 22nd of September. This is the St. Mark Street Park Working Group. And I'm calling the meeting to order and hoping that we can finish our business in an hour, which would be really lovely. Because I know everybody's really busy. First order of business is review and approve the minutes for July 28th. Do we have any emendations for these?
So on those, right, James, I think James, were you at the last meeting?
No, sorry.
All right. So what we talked about, we had a question about whether, because the agenda said something about, Michael Klukman, but he didn't come to the meeting until August 4th, right? I think that there was just a discussion about whether to invite him, right?
I'm sorry, maybe I missed something, but
Which number are we talking about?
were any minutes sent out for the meeting today?
These are the minutes that I just found them in my junk mail literally a minute and a half ago that James sent out on the 15th of September for the 28th of August meeting. So maybe we should just table the minutes until I can send these out, because I fell down on that. They were in my junk folder. So is everybody okay with just tabling all the minutes until our next meeting?
Yeah, but I think at our next meeting, we will have to, I mean, James, I know you got a lot going on, but do you think you can catch up?
Yes, yes.
All right.
All right, so we have the 28th, and I will send those out to you as soon as we are done tonight. And I apologize for that. And then we'll have the 4th, the 25th, and September 15th. All right, sorry about that. Agenda item number 2 is public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Do we have anyone who's attending who would like to comment? Okay, attendees, we have, all right, I'm guessing no. All right, the planning board item, I would like to hold that off and wait until we get to the letter from the town planner concerning the scenic roads, which is agenda item number 5. If everybody's okay with that, I would like to put those two together. Go ahead, Freddie.
Maybe I'm behind, but did we get a letter from the town planner?
Yes.
The committee? I saw the letter about the stone walls. Is there another one about scenic roads?
No, that was the
Same
only
one.
one.
What?
That was the only
No.
one.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what did you just say then? That you want to put it off until you're combining?
No, I want to talk about, we didn't actually get that letter. I was CC'd on it. And then I distributed it to you. But I think that about the stone walls and the scenic roads is the issue that's up for discussion tonight. So
Okay.
I would like to move that. I would like to take agenda item number 3 and put it with agenda item number 5 and have those be the same thing, if that's okay with everybody. And I would like to move right now to talk about the public forum with the residents and arranging that, if that's okay with everybody.
That is okay with me.
All righty, let's do it. Andrew, can you fill us in on the date that you were able to get the public safety building?
At least as of 2 days ago when I asked, the public safety building was available both on October 3rd, Monday, October 3rd, and Thursday, October 6th. The select board has a meeting on the 3rd, and I think that's gonna, because the following Tuesday is Rosh Hashanah. And so the 3rd is not gonna, would not work for me, but the 6th looks like a good date. I also, at the select board meeting on Tuesday night, which I don't know if went extremely late and there was a very long agenda. I gave a report under the members report about the discussion that we had at our last meeting and about those 2 proposed dates for the public forum. One of the things that I raised was that our current charge called for a report and recommendation to the select board by the end of September. And the board agreed to extend that until October. I will say just at this point, I am not in favor of any further extensions. I think that we, deadlines benefit us. I think that, there's not, it's unlikely there would be any report at this point before the special town meeting. I think that's okay, but I just think that we should endeavor our very best to try to get some type of a report to the select board by the end of October. I know that there are questions regarding other aspects of the park that are really, outside the charge of the working group that certainly, they're not going away, and those are issues that the select board needs to resolve. But this working group was really gathered for because of originally, right, to fill in the middle of the circle, and then basically a total redesign. So the work of this working group is really just one piece of a larger problem that needs to be dealt with, that has issues going through it. So so that's where we are at this point.
Okay. How are people with the date of Thursday, the 6th of October?
Can I jump in?
Sure, Freddie, go ahead.
I have a real hard time with that, and I want to tell you why. I think we should have it after special town meeting for many reasons, many reasons. I think some angst will be discussed or out of the public purview, which isn't what we're going to be discussing. It's the Thursday before a long weekend. It's before, isn't that the Heritage Day weekend? I'm flat out. I just can't squeeze in a public forum between now and then with all the other meetings I have to do to go to that. Just, I've been asking for public forums since I got on here in the end of June. And I think, things happen the way they happen. We didn't have it. I don't see any reason not to wait till after town meeting. I just think
Okay, let's talk about that. I totally understand what you're saying. Other thoughts on moving it until after town meeting?
okay, so I wasn't quite done.
Okay.
And I hate people waving their hands around when I'm talking. It's rude,
You hate people what?
just saying.
You hate
Don't make
people what?
gestures when I'm talking, please. Throwing your arms up in the air. It's not necessary. This is hard stuff. Well, you know who it is then, right, Bill? Because you just did it again.
Wait,
It's not
Freddie, come on now. Let's just get this done. I'd like to get out of here in an hour. Come on.
I asked 2 meetings now. I've been saying after town meeting. I think there's things on town meeting that's going to impact how this project moves forward.
Okay, is there anybody on the committee who has a problem with doing it after town meeting?
I do, because the fall town meeting is on Thursday, October 13th, right? So then you do it Thursday, October there's not a lot of available dates, and
Well, 20th or 27th. I mean, we could do it then. And it's true the town meeting might clarify a lot of stuff that people would have questions about if we did it before the town meeting. So I'm leaning with Freddie in this one. I'm fine with bringing it to after. And the drop dead deadline of the end of October is one thing, but maybe we could clarify better after the town meeting's been held and faster, and there would be less uncertainty in our report. So I'm leaning toward what Freddie says and doing it after.
just one pattern that has happened is that where something has come up and there is an uncertainty, the uncertainty is cleared, and then another uncertainty is like, I just think that this has been going on. We have been meeting since February.
I know it's been long, but a lot of
Oh.
things have happened and a lot of things have changed. So it hasn't been like we've been spinning our wheels. I mean, a lot
But
of things have,
actually, not that much has changed, you know,
well,
in that the archaeological work did not reveal anything that was. I know that there's going to be a report done later, but that didn't. There was nothing in what was done that caused a reason to not follow through on what we've done yet.
mm-hmm.
So again, so if we then go into, I know that some of these dates are, you know, kind of artificial, but it's like,
Right.
okay, so we have been meeting since February, right? And then part of I see of my role is just kind of liaising between the select board and the working group. And I do think there's a concern. This is meeting number like 11, 12. I mean, I'm also thinking about our time is very valuable. So let's take, okay, some of the issues would be like, for example,
The issues would be the usual ones, which are ownership. Why are we spending town money on something that doesn't belong to the town? Upkeep, liability, the same questions that have to do with the legal issues concerning this. And if these get resolved during town meeting in any way, shape, or form, then I think it would make our job much easier doing a public forum. That's
there's
all, Andrew, but
so
I respect your point of view, surely, but
Yeah.
that's where I am.
So there's nothing on the warrant that is okay. There is a citizen's petition at the end, and I know it's
Right.
granted citizen's petition that asks the town to accept a gift that St. Mark's hasn't offered. So let's say that this passes. It's completely kind of a non-binding. I am not aware ever of any warrant on a town meeting, an article on a town meeting warrant that's asking the town meeting permission to acquire land that nobody has offered to give you. So let's say that passes. Do you think that like there would still be a lengthy period of time that would dictate what happens next, right? I think that, you know, I was hoping there would be some clarity about the ownership issue before September 20th, but there wasn't. But there's still, you know, our chair Kathy mentioned at our last meeting that there might be some update by October 3rd. So I guess just working it through, the idea is we would delay it because we would see if that there would be also the town's acquisition of the entire parcel then mean I don't know how that works on whether there would be a park or there wouldn't be a park, or it's just that's just another invitation for like months. Then we would head into phase 3, right? Okay, now we would have to get we would have to begin this process all over again. And then with the the stone wall issue, this is another thing that, first off, at least in the pictures that I saw, the stone wall is on the other side. It's on the north side, right? And to the extent that there was something on this side, that's something that could be in part incorporated into a recommendation of the working group. This is
Right, the
your
park design would
recommendations,
change,
but I
right,
think that
yeah.
you should look into this issue. It basically comes down to, do we want to fulfill the charge or do we not want to fulfill the charge?
Can I jump in and say, part of what you keep saying is how many meetings you've had. And as somebody who didn't get appointed into the end of June, I believe, when the charge was actually said that you were looking at the whole park, it's not Kevin and my fault that you guys were working on something that wasn't your charge. So if you're talking about charge, it's kind of disingenuous that you are using the excuse that you had so many meetings when you weren't working on your charge, because you chose not
Well,
to.
let's, independent of who did what to who, let's try to
Understood.
move forward and see, do we want to meet after the town meeting, the special town meeting or not? And I'd like to hear from everybody in the working group because everybody's got one voice and one vote. So, I don't know. Is Bill still with us?
I'm still here. I have no comment.
Okay, Bill has no comment. Kevin, you got your hand up, right?
Yes, I was just going to mention that I thought we were perhaps drifting into other agenda items when I think the point under discussion is simply whether to hold the public forum before special town meeting or after. And so I'm willing to entertain everybody's argument on that point, after which I think we should motion it, second it, and put it to a vote and move on.
All right. Thank you. Grant?
Yeah, I I agree with Andrew in that I don't think any immediate resolution is going to happen at this town meeting. As Andrew said, there is one citizens petition, which I was not a sponsor. I wasn't sure if Andrew had said that or not. I couldn't hear. But there is one citizens petition, which is essentially asking for a gift of land, which has not happened yet. So if that was to happen, it would be down the road, and nothing's going to happen immediately at this town meeting. So I just I am looking to get public comment here, public input rather, at a public forum. I don't see the harm in having one earlier, just to see what the public has to say, since we haven't really done that yet. And if we think it's warranted after town meeting, if something really comes to light there, then we can have another one. But I don't think we need to wait arbitrarily a month just to in case something might happen. I think we can. October 6th seems like a fine date for me. It works for my schedule. It's after the October 3rd meeting, if anything happens there, which seems like to me is more likely to happen in the immediate term.
Mm-hmm.
And if people just want to come and vent their grievances, which I hope that's not what they use it for, but then so be it. But that I would be in favor of doing it earlier rather than later, just to get quick public input.
Well, so you heard that I can't make it on the 6th, right? Just saying.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry. Okay. Well, maybe we can find another day.
All right. James.
Yes, just a minute. Yes, so I think for the sake of efficiency, I think we can have a meeting on the 6th. Just what time were you planning for that evening?
It's free from 6:30 on, as I understand it. So we could.
Okay, then if a majority of us, if 5, 6, or 7 of us can make it, I think it'd be good to have, especially as long as we stay on topic of our charge, which is what should go in the park.
All right. Who have I not asked about this? Okay. The other part about the forum, which is a facilitator. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Roger Challen, but
Agreed.
he has offered to facilitate this meeting. On the
Marguerite,
6th.
if I may, before we move on,
Yes.
should we try to set the date just so we have it in stone?
Yes,
and we
but
don't have
I'd
to come
just
back?
like to say that we
Okay.
have a facilitator lined up for the 6th, should we decide to have it on that date.
Okay.
All
So
right.
Grant, I think that your idea about having a, one before, one after, and then also that would, Freddie, are you free on like October 20th?
Yeah, I'm just really, as a member who got pushed on late and didn't get to be a part of a lot of the decisions that were made ahead of time, for me to say I can't make it on the 6th and you're planning to have it on the 6th, can't tell you how upsetting that is to me right now.
Well, didn't we talk in our last meeting that the possible dates were going to be the 3rd and the 6th?
And didn't I say at the time that I thought it should be later? And I don't know, I'm
Yes.
just one member, but
So is there a date before town meeting that works for you, Freddie?
I think that whole week is a bad week. It's a long weekend week. Do you know what happens to people before a long weekend? They're not around, they're not going to come, you're not going to get the level of buy-in. And then you have town meeting the next week. People are going to meetings, getting ready for that. I think it's not about what's going to happen for town meeting, and please don't misunderstand me. It's not about what's going to happen at town meeting related to this. It's that committees are meeting, prepping for things they're doing at town meeting. There's big issues on the meeting that people are studying up on, trying to understand. And I think putting this the same week before, within a week of it, it's not good government.
Well, okay, so we have basically two points of view on this, and I actually at this point would like to ask if any of the attendees would care to weigh in on this. Do we have any raised hands?
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yes, Andrew, please.
So is everyone available on October 20th?
I am.
Okay.
I'm not.
So if we need,
Well, Freddie, if you're not available on the 20th, then when are you
sorry, did you say-
available?
That's a
Ready.
community preservation committee meeting, and I can't attend both. I have to be at the CPC.
what about the 19th?
I can't do the 19th. Sorry.
I mean, this is the thing, it's difficult to find, Thursday nights had been our kind of, this is another reason why I think we want to wrap up.
Just do it.
So
What if we have two? What if we do one on the 6th and then do one on another night?
I think there's benefit to having two, okay?
All
I
right.
think there's
That sounds
benefit
like a
to
good
having
idea.
two, but if I can't be there at the first one, I feel like there's no sense for me to continue on with this.
Well, that's your decision, Freddie.
I
I mean,
understand.
I think it would be a wrong decision, but it's your
Since
decision.
day one, when meetings have been posted, when I couldn't attend and I was told I could watch it later, I had to give up vacation plans. I
Wait a
just-
second, Freddie, we're all really busy. We're all on at least 2 other committees, or we're working full time in a lot of things. So
But I was,
what's wrong with having 2?
So Freddie, is there a date other than the 19th or the 20th when you are available?
the 17th, is that a selectmen's meeting?
It's a Monday.
And I'm available the 19th, but not the 20th.
Well, yeah, but James can't do it.
Right.
I think that was
Oh.
great.
The other young person.
Oh, Grant can't do it, sorry. That's
What's
so
wrong with it?
bad.
Is there something wrong with the 19th?
Yeah, Grant can't do
I
it.
mean, the 18th?
Just like, so I don't mind sitting it out. If Freddie,
I'm not saying the night you can't be there. I said the wrong date. Excuse me. I don't think we should plan any day that we can't all be there, really.
Well,
I think
that's
it's
gonna be
important.
tough, I'll tell you right now.
What's with the Monday?
Monday, October, what day are you talking about?
17th. Wait a minute, am I in the right month? October 17th is a Monday, right?
I could do that. I could do that.
Grant, can you do that? Kevin?
I believe I can, yes.
Bill is there?
I can do the 17th. I'll be slightly late because I'm coming out from Boston, but that's fine.
So Freddie, you can do it on Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m.
I can do it at any time you choose
Okay.
on the 17th. But we should hear from Bill.
I'm retired. I can do it.
So then, okay, so then 2 meetings, October 6th at 6:30, October 17th at, let's say, at the same time at 6:30.
You're still doing it on the 6th.
Yep,
I think
Look,
we
Okay.
we've got enough people who would like to do it on the 6th. We've got 2 people who would specifically like to do it on the 6th, though I think we should do it on the 6th and again on the 17th.
So Freddie,
You don't need to have it on the 17th for me. Just do it on the
Mr.
6th.
Challen has his hand raised. Would you like me to bring him over and
Yes,
also
please, Roger.
we could provide some background too?
Are you available on the 17th? That's the first question.
Well, first off, as to why, at our last meeting, we had talked about there might be benefit to having an outside person come and just moderate this. And I had spoken to, first off, Roger, if you could just kind of introduce yourself about, who you are and the different town things you have done. Hopefully you would not be deterred from serving on this from listening to our spirited discussion about scheduling issues. But
Well, let me start at the end. When we briefly discussed the possibility of this, Andrew, we talked about the dates next week. I
yeah.
think I'm going to be out of town that entire week after town meeting, which is the dates you're talking about for the second
Right.
meeting. I am in town the week before town meeting, however. And if you want me to do a 1-minuter on, I guess, my background, I've held, a variety of positions serving the town, from selectman to advisory board to personnel board. Currently, school committee chair for the last couple of years, which has been exciting. So I've been involved with the town government for a lot of years, and actually have moderated a couple nights at town meeting as a substitute. So that's, I think, probably enough about me. Certainly ask me any questions if you'd like. If it turns out that this meeting is going to, or if there will be a meeting on a week that I'm in town, I would have a few questions about it. Presumably you're going to discuss what you envision the format of that meeting is going to be. So
Yep.
I'll go back on mute in case you have any questions of me.
Thank
All
you.
right, as I understand it, the meeting will be to discuss 3 possible designs for this park space. And these designs were created by VHB given the parameters that this working group had come up with over numerous meetings for what we saw as the most desirable elements for this park to have. And they were things like it would be a memorial to marginalized people in Southborough. It would have a connection with history walks throughout town. It would, of course, be accessible. It would offer a low footprint, which would be, if there's any recreation at all, it's going to be totally passive. It would have places for people to sit. It would have some kind of a memorial for the marginalized people, which could be a wall or boulders, or we weren't sure. And given those parameters, and I don't think I left anything out, those were given to the VHB landscape architect who came up with 3 designs. And these are the 3 designs that are up for public input because they contain the elements that we thought were important to include. So that's basically, I think, the format for input. It would be a charrette with the 3 designs put up there for people to look at and give feedback on.
And I just,
think I said everything.
Roger, I just forwarded it to you, but I can also try to put it on my screen here too, so that you see. Obviously, take the time to review it more when you're ready. But okay, so,
Well, shall I ask a few questions?
Please.
yeah.
I guess I'll combine these for a second and then we can go back and deal with them separately. Primarily, I'm interested in what you want to accomplish at the meeting. And I know you just, Marguerite, you just mentioned a couple things, but in other words, are you looking for public comment on the designs as a, I guess, what design would people prefer of the participants that are going to be there from the public? Are you looking for people to recommend changes to these designs, in addition to just identifying what they prefer? I guess you aren't really going to be presenting at town meeting, and probably what you think, I guess we'll use the term facilitator, what do you think someone like me would, I guess, what value the facilitator would add to what you're trying to accomplish at such a meeting?
Good questions.
If
I think
can-
part of what it is that our charge was that we would have public forums about the design, that we would have public input about what the park would look like. And the other thing that occurs to me is that something is going to have to go on this space. This would be our considered suggestions about what could go in this space. And I think that at this point, the people in town would have an opportunity to say whether they wanted different things, more or less, whatever it is. So it is, I think that's where we are. We're charged with having public forums. Am I leery of doing a public forum because I think there are a lot of unanswered questions that are going to kind of up in a public forum? Yes, but I think we should do a public forum sooner rather than later. Does that, other people want to speak to that?
Kevin, how's his hand raised?
Yeah, I would. I appreciate Mr. Challen stepping forward and thought his questions were spot on. And it actually goes back to the Freddie's question about scheduling. Not to speak for Freddie, but I think part of Freddie's concern here is that in the initial forum, I thought it wasn't going to be a matter of putting up 3 designs and saying to the public, pick which one you like. and then we'll be done with it. Or even pick which elements of the 3 designs that you like and we'll be done with it. But that it would involve at least some discussion of a more broader conceptual kind of issue, at which time I think every member should be present. I think, you know, I feel Freddie's concern and understand it, because I think she ought to have the opportunity to present her perspective at an initial design forum and not have to do it by proxy. I personally am interested in presenting some conception of the park as a place of quiet remembrance with a good deal less clutter than some of the VHB designs present. And Mr. Challen's role, in my view, would be to moderate that and to make sure that everybody gets a voice and everybody's perspective can be represented succinctly, but comprehensively, and to funnel the public feedback from those presentations into something coherent that we could possibly send back to VHB for further comment or review. And so I just wonder if we can't take a moment, as difficult as it is, and I am willing to go through my calendar day by day between today and the end of October to find a date that would be satisfactory to all parties, because I just really think that
We'll do that too.
you know, yeah, that because I don't want a feeling of ill will from anyone that feels like their views have been marginalized. It's too important. It's trying, but I personally am willing to do whatever is humanly possible to make sure that we can all be there at the same time and have our voices heard. And I particularly think that the initial charrette, if you'd like to call it that, is a very important one to have everybody present if it is at all possible. If it's not, it's not. But I think we should really try.
Roger, would you be available the week of the 24th of October? And are you still interested in facilitating, having heard what you heard?
Well, I would still be willing to do it. I haven't really heard a consensus on what the board wants to actually have happen at the meeting yet. But I mean, I've heard some views. But I think it's probably important that you as a group define what's your goals for the meeting. Then it's certainly easier to facilitate moving towards the goals you have for the meeting. It is difficult for me once we get past that week that I understood you were going to try to do it, but I also understand why that probably is not a reasonable time to do it, especially with Freddie not available and potentially some members available. The only the end of October is tough for me. I'm available the 25th, but once I get through the second half of October, then I'm pretty available. But not that this should revolve on my schedule at all. So that's my response.
All right. So if we want Roger to facilitate, we're looking at November.
Well, should we focus on the first one? Sorry, the closer.
On the 6th?
Well, presumably not on the 6th, because that doesn't work for Freddie, but
The 17th? That doesn't work for Roger.
no, so Kevin had suggested going through our calendar day by day. So, presumably at least a week away from today.
Mm-hmm.
So shall we start on is a week enough time? Should we do later than a week and a half? When should we start going day by day by? The 29th, the 30th, the 3rd, when should we start?
The 3rd of November?
October.
Oh, well.
So, Roger, I think you're right. There isn't, here's what I was thinking, okay, as the role of that a facilitator could be is by having someone from who was not part of the working group, kind of ask people for feedback and then facilitate the back and forth between people who may come and the members of the working group. You could be almost more someone that facilitates it in a way that's like an advocate for people who just showed up from the outside, all right, and try to, you know, press us if there's other things that we haven't considered, right? And that that was the thought. I'm not sure we really need a moderator, but I see the value of it. So so anyway, like you're out the week of the 17th and the 24th.
Yeah, the Wednesday was the only day. So it looks like Roger will
Wednesday-
not be able
Other
to.
than, other than the 25th, if I, through the chair, other than the 25th, I believe I'm here on the 25th. That's really about the only day I'm here over that 2-week period. I'm
Okay, so
actually,
October 25th, yeah,
I'm never available on a Tuesday, period.
all right,
And unfortunately, Kevin and I
Okay.
have our historical commission meeting.
all right, so that's not gonna work. Well, we have two options. Either we can drop back to a day when Freddie can't make it, or we are gonna have to not make use of Roger's extreme skills in facilitating. So-
Marguerite, can I just ask one and throw out to everybody one, I'm sorry to
Yes.
break in, one
Please.
hypothetical. Is this the kind of thing, given that we want a lot of drop-in from the public, where it
Mhm.
would be appropriate to do it, I hate to say it, on a Saturday afternoon? Is that a crazy idea, or are we just sticking to, you know, Monday through Thursday evenings? I know the kids' sports, all kinds of stuff. Tell me I'm wrong, and I'll just withdraw the idea.
No, I think
You know what's gonna happen? We're gonna do all of this, and two people are gonna show up for it.
that is something to consider as we
We're gonna talk about this for 4 hours, and two people will show up. Ugh, gosh.
Roger,
I
Great,
think
there's great value in having it if only 2 people show up.
I
there
agree.
is.
There is, because if you do the right PR and invite everyone, the
Mhm.
fact that you did it and you publicize it, you know, people know that we were trying to get their input. So we don't
Okay.
try to have it on a night only 2 will show up. That's not a goal.
All
But I'm
right.
saying on a Thursday night, you could have only 2 people show up. So I
Okay, so
don't know, people are for the Saturday, but I don't think it's a terrible idea.
you don't think it's a what?
I don't think it's terrible.
Okay, so here's the thought. My thought is, let's do it on the 6th, and so that we've had one, and then let's do it after town meeting at some point, we don't know when. I am okay with not attending myself. If I don't see that my presence is gonna make that much difference one way or the other. I can make it on the 6th. I've got library and a bunch of other things happening on other dates. I don't mind missing the second one. So I say let's do it on the 6th, and then if we need to reschedule another one where everyone is there but me, that's fine, we can do that. I think we should just do something. That's where I feel, that's what I
Marguerite,
feel about it.
if I may, so I thought that I liked Kevin's suggestion, and I've been trying to do this for the last 15 minutes,
Mhm.
of going through our calendar to try to find another day other than the 6th, presumably that same week,
Yeah,
like the 5th or the 4th, you know, and just try to find something that works for all of us, because the 6th doesn't work for Freddie.
well, Freddie, can you do it on the 4th or the 5th? Freddie said you couldn't do it all that week, I thought.
The 4th is
said
Jewish,
no.
Jewish holiday, so I don't think we should do it that day.
Oh, it is? Okay, sorry.
So the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th are all off the table. Freddie can't do it.
I said I didn't think it was wise to do it before a long weekend. I think I'll tell you what the public perception is when you do it right before a long weekend, is that you're trying to not have people attend. And I'll
Well,
tell you that,
here's the other part of it. I think we've been talking about this for 48 minutes, and we've gotten to the point where it is just 67 reasons why we can't do it at any time. I'm willing to step back from this and say, do we really need to do this forum? Because at the rate we're going, we're never going to get it done. We cannot schedule it.
If-
Are we
if-
going to do it where it's not totally making everybody happy, or are we just going to skip it altogether?
have we done the thing that Grant asked us to do yet?
Which is,
Kevin asked us first.
which was what? Can you clarify?
Take out our calendar and say October 1st, who can make it? October 2nd, who can make it? October 3rd, who can make it? October 4th, who can make it?
Yeah, Freddie doesn't want to do it that week. The
Well,
week of the 9th and 10th is the long weekend, right?
so
Roger can't do it the week of the 16th at all, and he can't do it the week of the 23rd. So that effectively means those 2 weeks, except for the 25th, are out.
Well, if it's, I mean, we could, Roger, we could also, if we're particularly, if we're gonna do two, we could try to do one where, you know, we have one where you help and one where we try to find someone else. And another consideration here is like, you know, if there's a realistic, we should also pair this with what is a realistic date for, you know, we would conclude our work. I think we'll all be thankful when we finally hold a public forum. Also, because I said at least twice, reported back to the select board, part of the charge was to do a working forum, a public forum, so we should do the public forum, right? And let's just do it. So
I agree. And if the point of the public forum is to be able to say we did a public forum, then there it is.
I can get out the 6th. I just contacted my commitment, so
Sorry, what did you say, Freddie?
I just contacted my commitment and I can get out of what I have to do on the 6th.
All right, so
thanks,
can we
Fred.
move forward with doing it on the 6th? That'd be great.
Thanks for being flexible, Freddie. We appreciate it.
do
Just
we
gonna
want to
say-
also then have another date?
Just do that and be done. Next week, write up our report and get it to the selectmen and be done with it.
Sounds like a plan.
We could always be flexible at this public forum, since it would constitute a meeting of ours. We could always, at that point, decide to go forward with another one.
All right, that sounds like a good plan too. So for the 6th, we need to come up with a goal for Roger. We need to get copies of the 3 plans if that is what we are discussing. If it is not what we are discussing, we need to decide what we are going to be discussing in that public forum. We need to talk about publicity for it.
To that point, I think we definitely should talk about the 3 plans. But if people have suggestions of, if people who show up, I don't like any of these, I think that you should do something completely different, then we should listen to that. Or if people have, there's parts of this that I like and parts of it that I don't, that we could bring that feedback back.
Mhm.
But I think it makes no sense to come to have a public forum with nothing. I think it'd be very unproductive, but if people say, I don't like these, I think there should be a different design, then we'll listen to that and talk about it. But I
So-
mean, through a whole process of developing.
Well, this is the whole issue of, are we going to start over from where we were in February with discussing parameters, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what beginning with some blank slate would do, right? And then I'm just not in favor of that.
So we had discussed that we would start out with Andrew
Yep.
laying down some groundwork. And then different members of the committee could have a few minutes to discuss what they saw or what their vision was. And then when you have the plans, you have sticky notes that you can write notes on. And I'd be happy to say there are 4 plans. And we could just have a blank outline where people could draw in what they would like to see or make their little sticky notes on the blank outline. It's not perfect starting with but if, you know,
Okay.
it would allow some people to have a vision that wasn't pre-planned for them. And Kevin, I think you could even sketch out something if you'd like.
I think this sounds like a really good way to do it.
I'm happy to put a couple of big trees in the middle of it and nothing else.
All right.
And then
Okay.
an area with a marker. And then the question I have is if we're doing that presentation at the front, which is short, like
Mhm.
you can do a lot with, and I'm suggesting maybe a PowerPoint if the visuals would be helpful. In a 1 minute, 2 minutes, you can flip through a couple of pictures and say, this is, you know, like the pictures I supplied to the committee on the open spaces with the big tree. And Kevin, I think you had some pictures, and Andrew, you did. I mean, these are just ideas we had. Each member of the committee could do that. That would take, you know, really keeping it tight, you can do it. Andrew gets a little more time because he's talking about what we are and aren't also what we're not talking about.
Mhm.
And then 2, 4, 6, that's 10 minutes, so 15 minutes at the beginning, right?
And how long are we foreseeing this meeting to be going on? No more than 2 hours for sure.
I think you plan an hour and a half, and then
Right.
people can mingle at the end if they want to chat longer.
Yep. All right.
Schedule it for 2, but so you have 15 minutes at the beginning, then you break out into groups. Name tags is critical. I know people feel geeky about it, but even if it's just us, the one person who doesn't know anyone's name, it's important. Assign in name tags, and then you go to different, you know, equal amount of people at the different tables, preferably with, well, you don't have to self-select, but, and then Roger could help. I think we should have one of us at each of the tables to help write notes of what people are saying. And then I don't know what you do, Roger, if you go around, and then at the end, each group has one person that speaks for them and reports back to the whole group of what their little table said. And if there's very few people, you can ask each person to speak.
Yeah, and it's similar to the master plan committee. The way that worked.
Does that sound right to you, Roger? You've done
I
these
think it
things,
sounds fine.
but I'm asking Roger because he's facilitating.
Well, to answer your question directly, Freddie, I think that actually sounds very good.
Well, thank you.
I'd like to, and a couple of forums that I've been involved with before, and some of these weren't public, some of these were internal. That's the way that the facilitator handled it. Now, let me jump ahead for a second. So you all are expected to provide a report to the select board, is that correct? Right now, it sounds like the date will be the end of October, but then maybe that's going to be moved out again, I don't know. So what is your report intended to communicate to them? Are you intending to communicate a choice of design? Are you intending to communicate, here's all the information we've found that townspeople communicated to us? I mean, have you formed I guess a structure for the report that you're going to provide to the select board?
Well, I sort of have, and other people can say whether or not they agree. The first part would be our process and the length of time we spent with it, and that would include public comment about things like the ownership of the land, which has been an issue. It will be the archaeological dig, which was another big issue. It will be we're stakeholders from various segments of the community. So that would be the first part. The second part, I think, would be what the process with VHB when they configured using our parameters that we worked out, that we wanted some open space, that maybe this, maybe that, and that we got the designs. And then I think the third part would be the results of what would happen in the focus group or the public input part of it. And then I think the fourth part, the last part of it, would be our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on how we believe the whole park design should proceed. So there would be 4 sections. And that's roughly how we have the first section, we have the second section. We don't have the recommendation because we don't have the third section. And the third section, I hope we can get on the 6th. And that's how I perceive the report to be structured.
And if I might again, and is it your intent? I guess it's really a question for you, this whole working group, to be presenting a design, whether that's one of the ones that the engineering firm provided, or the one that's maybe created by the public at this meeting? I mean, are you trying to get to the point where you're going to recommend a specific design, or just give the selectmen some information?
I think that there will be a 4th design for this park. It will not be any of those 3. It will have elements of the 3. It may be simpler, it may be less expensive, it may be more complicated, but I think there is a 4th design that we have not arrived at yet, and I think that the public input will be part of that. So I think that the recommendation would be that there be a 4th design drawn up, which takes in the public comment.
And that'll go back to the landscape design firm, or I'm not sure what they are, but
Or whatever, that's VHB, but I think that it would depend on the selectmen to decide what they wanted to do with that. Does
Okay.
that sound like a plan? I mean, I'm just spinning this off the top of my head as the way I would put a report.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just clarify. I think that we would have written recommendations for what we'd like to see in the parcel.
Mhm.
You know, actually spelling it out. We would like to see large trees. We would like to see, just in case the select board decides not to go, even if we include a visual drawing
Mhm.
or a specific plan that, if for whatever reason they reject that plan, then other recommendations would, hold up.
Right. Because there's also the issue, which we haven't talked about, which is very important, of how's this going to get paid for, which I think will impact what the final design is. So that's another moving part here. So I don't think we can make a recommendation about how it's going to get paid for, because we don't know, but
I think until that is determined, and they
mhm,
know what funds are available,
mhm.
because you go 2 ways. You have this much money and that's what you designed for, or here's
Yeah.
the design, we'll come up with the money.
We'll come up with
I
the
think
cash.
that's after the report that this committee working group submits to the selectmen, which the charge said was a concept, didn't say a designed plan. Although having a more formal plan isn't a bad idea
Mhm.
to show, but
Yeah, design and themes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So-
agree. Sorry, Freddie.
I was just going to say, and I don't really dare say this, but I imagine there will be some work needed after the committee gives its recommendation, whether it's a new committee or not. I have no idea, but somebody's going to have to make decisions. This is just the quote, as I said last time, hypothetical park, right?
Right.
Because
Yes.
the unknowns, and I'm not saying that with any ill intent, but until some more things are in place through the Board of Selectmen, which is things that we're not charged with discussing, which is ownership and funding. So those are in place. What we're talking about is just, we're working to make the best park possible be a concept when and if it moves forward. In whatever
That's
form.
exactly right. That's exactly right. To have something there that is a possibility instead of no idea of what it would contain or function as.
May I ask or make a comment?
Sure.
Through the chair, so I'll just share with you what I think I've heard. And it's actually different than what I was thinking I was going to hear before this meeting. What I thought I was going to hear was that you've got 3 designs. You were going to solicit public comment on the designs, make a decision on one of them and recommend that going forward. What I've actually heard is that you're really using these designs almost, that you don't actually think you're going to end up with one of these specific designs, but you're going to use them at this forum to facilitate acquiring, I guess, information from the public that will likely lead to something different that may have elements from one or the other designs, but not going to end up with one. They're just going to be there along with your comments to facilitate public input to, I guess, produce a new result somehow or other. And that's what I think I've heard you say, just as an FYI, sort of an outside pair of ears here.
Yes, and what I hope to avoid is the dreaded design by committee where you end up with something that makes everybody sort of unhappy. I think that I think it's important to listen to what everybody wants, but I also think that there's such a thing as too many opinions coming up with a design that isn't a very good design. So I'm worried about that, frankly, if I may share that. I think it needs an overarching principle to it, which is what Kevin was talking about. It needs.
So I agree. So just to confirm on that, just to sort of finalize our plan for this forum so we can maybe hear about that letter, is, from what I understand, a public forum on October 6th at 6:30 at the Public Safety Building. It'll be about an hour and a half of the formal forum, 15 minutes where we present the groundworks or the background, where all 7 of us talk for a minute, and then using the 3 plans, but also the general themes we've come up with, give a broad idea to members of the public, who will then go into small group sessions to talk and elaborate and generate ideas for us to include in our final report to the select board. Does that all sound good?
Yes.
I have a couple questions, if you don't
Yes.
mind. I've never done a forum in this format before. I'm not saying I don't want to do it this way. I just want to clarify. So for the small group sessions, would that be like one of each of the members would man a table essentially and have people come up and ask them questions, or I guess the public forums that I've seen have been more question and answer, in which, essentially kind of like town meeting, somebody goes up to a microphone, asks a question, or states their opinion or provides their input, and then the next person gets up to the microphone and states their.
As the master plan committee met over and over and over, and it was done by it split the whole problem of a master plan into groups that were basically in different parts of the room, and they discussed separately, and then it sort of came together, but it was a different kind of it was different parts of the master plan were different groups of people.
So, but for this is more like a planning charrette.
Mm-hmm.
And how they are formatted is you have the same plans on the tables. So all 3 plans on each table with the same group of people, or you can move around, but I don't think we're organized enough to move around. So you go to a table, you sit there, the group with somebody at each table to help them talk, and they have sticky notes, or or you can use markers, one of the two. And they write on the actual plans what they like, don't like, what they would see different as a group. Each group does that, working together, and then they report at the end as a group. You get one person, unless we don't have enough people, and everyone can stand up and share what they felt about the process they just went through. And that's where Roger helps facilitate that sort of a response back. We did this for the different parks. We've done it for the open space and rec plans. We did it for the municipal vulnerability plan. So you
So-
work in a small group that reports back, and
So
then
there will be, essentially at the end, there will be opportunity for people to ask questions to the group as a whole, if they have any outstanding questions. That's what I want to make sure.
Or
Rather
even
than,
in the middle.
oh, Freddie's over there, you can go talk to Freddie. Kevin's over at that table, you can go talk to Kevin, and nobody gets the full picture. So at the end, there will be a chance for, if anybody has any outstanding questions after this process, there'll
I
be
think
a chance for
Roger
questions.
would do that as part of the wrap up. But first you let each group say what their concepts were. You get a speaker, they choose one person to report back, and then you open it up to everyone. But it's more hands-on, and it's not so much questions because they've gone through it in their group, right? Like,
And the way,
I'm not sure what kind of questions you're thinking they're going to have, because we're not talking about ownership at this.
if I might,
No, we're just talking about design.
Yeah.
if I might, so because you have different groups with different of your members, they're not all going to end up going the same direction. But the way I've seen it done and done it actually is, and I think this is really follows right on to what Freddie just identified. When each, I'll call it a table, goes ahead and presents, their conclusions, what they discussed. At that point, the entire group can ask them questions about, what they just presented, and you sort of cycle through each table that way, and then you've really recorded, I guess, you've recorded everybody's questions about the specific groups. And I don't know if you want to have a wrap up after that, or if at that point in time you're going to have basically secured all the information that you can from the public. Now,
Okay.
if I could also ask the fourth design you'd mentioned before, could you talk a little bit more about that? And how do you want that fourth design to be either created or treated or discussed? It's the one that's blank that people are gonna,
Put in elements for what they want. So
put in
Roger,
exactly.
here's the situation with that. This group of people will not be able to design the park because it requires engineering, it's got drainage, it's got all kinds of stuff in there that the DPW and VHB have got to deal with, plus the way Freddie's plantings are going and the accessibility walk and all this stuff. It's going to require engineering. So I think what we would get for the fourth design would be what the people who show up, not to say that they're representative of everybody in Southborough, but the people who show up, how they would perceive of a park, but it certainly cannot be the park that gets built. There's severe gradients there that are going to require help. There's a question of what are you going to make the walks out of so that they're wheelchair usable. I mean, there are 100 different variables.
Right, it's the elements that.
Yes, it's
that
the elements.
That public will have basically communicated they'd like to see
Yes,
in the park.
that's how I see it
And
anyway.
many of those elements will be, I'm guessing, suggested to them by what they see on these existing designs. In other words, they're
Right.
going to see something on an existing design, they're going to say, kind of like that, but you know what? I'd also like to see this, and I don't see this anywhere. So you're going to end up with a number of elements kind of on a blank
Yes, and there were a
What
number
do you
of
call it,
things.
design?
Exactly. And VHB brought up a number of things because he'd done other parks. He said, do you want wireless in this park? Because you can put wireless into a park. And this was like news to me. And I thought, well, that's a good plan. So that's why you really do need some of the experienced professional things that he'd come up with. So yes, it would be elements. It would be elements that people would like to see in the park. And
I-
again, this is going to be a meeting where some people are showing up, but it's not everybody in Southborough. So again, it's going to be a partial representation of what the citizens in Southborough want. Again, it's an imperfect representation of what people want.
So I think if you go to,
That's Bill's, right?
Yes, I'm sorry to, I'm showing this on the screen, Roger, because before we invited the VHB landscape architect to listen to what we're talking about and then create the more professional looking concept plans that I just showed you. Bill, a friend of his who is a landscape architect, and Bill, please feel free to jump in here.
I think it was his sister-in-law, right?
Did something like this, right? Where it's just a handwritten drawing. So this is, I don't know if this is what you're thinking about, of like this fourth design would be just the group that, if they were able to have some consensus, of have something that depicted in like a handwritten form like this, what they were talking about.
in this short period of time, I don't think it will ever get to that level. The way I envisioned the blank slate was following up on Kevin's having a more open area. And I thought it's also an opportunity for individuals who may have an idea that isn't represented anywhere on the other plans to have it put down and to be able to say, this is something I'd like to see. And in discussion that this committee could hear and say, we hadn't thought of that. That's the value of, having a public forum.
Right.
We hadn't thought of that. That could fit in. Let's see how we can make it. But I don't think anyone here had thought that that design would be something we would then take or that public input is public input. It's not public design, the project.
Right,
for it.
right. So
So
does that make
feedback
sense?
to the
Yeah.
committee to decide what they want to do with those elements based on everything else you already know from meetings since last February.
Right, because we might show it to Michael Clutchman and he might say, yes, we can do that, or no, they tried it in, Westport, Connecticut, and it was a disaster. So it is now 8:15, and I would like to deal right now with one. James had said all the things concerning the next steps forward. Who would like to be responsible for publicizing this meeting?
I assumed we would get assistance from town hall like we did for our last meeting.
All right, any other ideas of ways to get it out there?
To write up a press release that goes to my Southborough, send it out, have Rex send it out to their email list. You put it on, have Vanessa Hale will send out a tweet. It's on the banner going across the website. You have a flyer made up that goes to the senior center. You email all the department heads that flyer so that somebody has to make a flyer that would.
Okay, who wants to do that? I guess that will be me. Oh, okay.
All right.
Yes, I will do that. All right. And I will get going on that immediately and I will have a try to get it done by Monday. All right.
The bulletin board at the townhouse,
Yep.
the library, ask the library to send it out on their
Yep.
email.
I'll put it on the library. All right. I'm just going to the town is going to be so tired of getting bombarded about this meeting. You wouldn't believe it. All right. Now, the other question is, on the flyer that goes out, shall I include the 3 designs?
No,
Why not?
because it's not big enough. If you want to put it on a website, but a flyer is going to be,
Well, I don't mean a paper flyer, but I mean to put it out there. It seems to me it would be a good idea to put those 3 designs out there so that people will have time to look at them before they come to the meeting.
so put it on the website somewhere
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think
and
if
a
you're
link
talking
to it.
Okay.
you're talking about the website, then if there's a banner, well, oftentimes the banner on My Southborough links to the website, I think, so.
Whose
Um,
website page it would have to be on, like the selectmen would have to create a dedicated area for it, because we don't have a web.
I'll
page.
talk to Vanessa.
We do actually have a webpage.
This
Wait,
working
we
group
do? The
does?
working group has a web page?
Yeah,
All right, I'm
right
gonna.
now it's just like our charge and who's on the working group
Yeah.
is pretty much all
The
that's.
Oh,
minutes
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like
Oh,
Okay.
then put it there. That's the right place for it.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna ask Vanessa to make it so that everyone in town is sick at the sight of it. Okay, so we're gonna do the 3, the 3 designs. Anything else that we need to include that you can think of right now?
Yeah.
What?
Somehow someone has to draw a blank outline of a plan. So you're gonna have 4 designs. And then you could write I'm just suggesting this. You could write something in there to let people know their input's important. You could say your ideas in the middle of a blank one.
So maybe just a map of I think we have a few of the engineering maps of the park as is, like some of the road maps, for example, could
Mhm.
are pretty much.
They sent us one that was I think it's a topo map
Mm.
outline.
There's also, the town assessor's office has a map of the parcel itself, which is less detailed. It does show you where the, boundary lines are and stuff.
All right,
It's
I
not a
will.
it's not a parcel of, the whole parcel is all the way, the whole park.
Okay, so you're talking about
It's not.
with the road. Okay, yeah.
We have one that the VHB created. I can send it out.
All right, question number 2. Do I include Roger's name as the facilitator?
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
What do you think, Roger?
what would the benefit of that be?
All
There
right.
would be massive amount of people who would come to see.
Yeah.
this.
Lines outside the door.
Yes.
You might be able to reduce the number of people that showed up if you're
There it
looking
is.
for
We're
only
not
2.
going. Roger's going to be facilitating. I would never set foot in that room. Okay. So, all right. So, yes. All right. Anything else that needs to be included? All right.
I just sorry, I'm just going
Yes,
back
go
to
ahead.
on that. Just a more general question. So in terms of timing, we're talking about 6:30 to 8, right?
Mhm.
10 to 15 minutes at the start of Andrew's overview, plus all of
Mhm.
us going around and saying our ideas or
Mhm.
whatever it is, why we joined the working group or whatever. And then, so in terms of each individual table, what percentage of the time, or how many minutes of the total remaining hour and 15 minutes is that?
Like for the breakout session?
Yeah, is that half an hour and then there's 45 minutes at the end, or is it 45 minutes and half an hour, or is it? I've never done this before. So is it an hour of that and 10 minutes at the end, or what's the balance?
I think you play it by ear. If 2 people show up, it's a different thing. If 20 people show up and they all want to chat, it's a different thing. So I would say you couldn't lock it in terribly tight, but I think Freddie's basic format of we introduce, and I think that the parameters that we came up with for what we conceived of as the point and use of the park would be important to state, that it would be a place that's thoughtful and not a place that's for active recreation, and that it would be open for everybody, and that it would link the historical trails in the town. And
Who's
that it would
doing
be,
that overview? Is that Andrew or you, Marguerite?
well, I don't know, we'll figure
It
it
should
out.
be well, isn't this the meeting we're figuring it out at?
Yeah, but I mean, but it seems like we're not going to just say, oh, Andrew's got 10 minutes, your time is up. I mean, we're going to all be there talking together, not necessarily over each other. But I'd say, Freddie, you would be presenting what open space wants to do there, and Kevin would be saying what
I
I
think
historical.
we
thought it would
should
be
plan
more
on Andrew.
formalized. Sorry. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I think we'll just say Andrew will talk for 5 minutes, and then all of us, including Andrew, will talk for another 2 or 3 minutes.
Sounds right.
I'll be
But I
from-
think what you just said, Marguerite, bears having someone who's going to say it. We know who's going to say what you just said. And it probably should be you, and you should go after Andrew. I think there's value in having a lineup. We don't have to decide it tonight, but
All right.
one, you know, 1, 1, 1, 1. This isn't a group chat. It's each person sharing what they brought to the committee, right?
Oh, and a lot of it was Kevin's line about a place to remember the people who had not, had been forgotten, basically.
Marguerite,
Yes,
just a logistical thing.
yes.
The public safety, the room that we're talking about, I think there's
Mhm.
another meeting that's going to get out on October 6th, right at 6:30.
Okay,
So for that reason, I think it's better to have it at 7 o'clock.
okay. 7 to 8:30?
Reserve the room to 9.
Yep. That's good. Now, is there any Zoom access to this meeting, or is it all in person?
I think if you have an in-person meeting, you want to do it all in person.
Good, thank you.
You really
All right.
can't, you can't deal with Zoom participants in, the tables that you want to separate people into. And if I could just add something to speak to the question, which I thought was a good one, on how do you want to segment the meeting? I think you need at least a half an hour, could be more, as far as the exchange at the tables, dialogue at the tables. Now, you may think you need more than that. You may think you need 45 minutes, but effectively, you have to go 30 minutes on that. Then I think you're probably going to end up with, so I don't know how many tables you have, but that part doesn't affect the length of time. But to have each table present kind of their conclusions, usually that really only takes about 5 minutes or so. But you could plan on, say, 5 to 10 minutes, including maybe any questions that folks would have for them. So that really depends on the number of tables you have. Now, I'm not sure when you talk about the wrap up, I'm not sure, again, what that's going to consist of. I'm not there. Once you get through collecting the information from the groups, having any questions asked and recorded from the groups, how will it be wrapped? How are you I guess, thinking about wrapping this up? Thank you very much.
I think I would try to summarize roughly what I think we'd heard during the evening that seemed to be the most salient or new points that people had brought up.
Then you're trying to have someone make a decision on what they think is important.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
I just want to say, I just
understand.
want to do something like, did I hear you right? You want X. Does that make sense?
Well, that sounds like that would come from the questions of the groups as they presented their information.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to make sure you heard what the group thoughts or recommendations or comments were,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll be recorded, saved.
Right, and I think also, how would you wrap it up, Roger? You've done this more than I haven't. I mean, I've taught 80 million thousand courses, but I haven't done this, so.
Well, like I said, I don't know that there's a lot of, you're not really, unless you as a committee are going to try to draw some conclusions from this at that meeting.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's a lot of additional dialogue that you have once you've solicited and collected the information and asked questions about it. But your committee, what are your thoughts?
I mean, personally, I don't see us making decisions on the night of. I think we would go home,
I agree.
think about it until our next meeting, which would probably be a week later or something like that, or town meetings that week. So 2 weeks later or something, and then, have a discussion about what we heard and what we thought was, could add value, or what we think we need to change and stuff like that. But I don't think we're going to be having that discussion the night
No,
of.
it's raw data at that point. Yeah. Kevin, how about you? You're quite.
If it were a design charrette, there are very specific procedures and protocols, and you can Google charrette procedure or charrette protocols and come up with those. It's a kind of a round robin accumulation and comparison of ideas. It doesn't sound like we're inclined to go in that direction. So I think I would defer to Roger. However, he felt it was appropriate to collect the input. It's going to vary very greatly on how many people attend and what their disposition is. I feel like with as many things that are unresolved, both financially and with regard to the ownership of the property, coming before town meeting, buckle up, because I think I really wonder how many people with so many hanging chads, as it were, are going to be able to come to a serious design discussion. But let's try it and let's see what happens. And again, I would defer to Roger's experience and wisdom on how to handle groups of people with differing ideas and to synthesize them into something. But I would say, Roger, that I don't conceive of this coming to any conclusion, but rather that in an effort to coalesce around a conception that compels people. And I think the design professionals are better suited to putting those into some sort of form that we can all understand. I'm not an architect or a landscape designer. I just have notions about what I think the broad conception of the park should be. And I haven't seen that reflected necessarily in the VHB plan. So I just, my personal hope is to kind of get a feel for the town. And if I'm going to be optimistic and hope that people who will commit to the theoretical conceptualizing of the park and come in that spirit, and hope to make some progress in that way. But I think I know that sounds amorphous, and I appreciate you asking a lot of questions. I would be asking the same questions as you are, because I would be worried about getting what do you want out of me, basically. This is what any consultant asks when a client is indecisive. What do you want? And I apologize, I think we found a little indecisive. That's because there's a lot of disparate feelings and it's a very complicated situation. But if you're able to give us some sense, just to bring together, moderate what we have to say and tell us when to shut up, and collect what the public has to say, and hopefully they'll show up in a good spirit and willing to overlook the hanging issues in the hope that they'll be resolved. Maybe they will be. Yeah.
I don't see, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
That's all I have to say. I'd love to hear what you have to.
Well, I actually, this sounds like a data collection process. I don't hear that you're going to get to any conclusions, and it sounds like on purpose you're not going to get to any conclusions. You're not going to solve anything at this meeting. You're going to basically collect information from the public. Hopefully, during that process, you're going to be trying to stimulate, some thinking in hopes that you'll get some views that maybe you haven't heard before. But it's really a data collection. I'm not trying to talk myself out of a job. The way I've seen these before would be the person from the engineering firm would facilitate the meeting, and that person, who has design experience, might be able to also facilitate some additional comments. But I think you're just collecting information.
I
Maybe
would
that's
say
for
that
another meeting.
there's a certain sense with that some of us are kind of at loggerheads on this, but I'm willing to put it to a vote. I mean, if the working group wants to take a vote to present the 3 done designs by VHB and take a vote on one of them and push that forward and be done with it, I'm happy to take that vote tonight. My vote's going to be no. But because I do think it's important to go in with a bit of an open mind and listen, give the opportunity for the public to look this stuff over and X things out and say, I don't like this. Because if we don't do it now, they're going to do it later. More vociferously, so I think, as frustrating as it is, and as much as, there's a part of me that certainly would like to present a finalized design to the public and say up or down. I don't think we're there yet. But I'm willing to put it to a vote if people want to do that.
No, not at all. I agree with you totally. And I feel like something has to go there. I would like to facilitate as much as we can towards something good there. And I think asking people what they want is a way to make that happen. And I think us discussing it has clarified a lot from the original VHB design that was there in February. So
Can I ask a follow-up question of Kevin? Which is, are you saying that at the public forum that there shouldn't even be, people shouldn't even be shown the copies of these 3 different
Oh,
designs?
no, not what I'm saying at all. No, I think I
Introduce those, and then there's a 4th, which is more free-flowing.
I think that they should be laid out and people can, bounce off of those things and say, I like this, I want a walkway, I don't like that, I'd like more trees. But, as long as we reserve the right for the various constituencies on this working group to stand up and have a couple minutes and make their own pitch, I'm fine with showing those 3 designs. Because if 50 people from the public show up and say, I really like part number 2 by VHB, I'm going to sit down and shut up, because it's done. The public has spoken. I'm here to sort of represent a certain viewpoint, but I want those park designs to be shown. We paid we paid money for them. Let's get them out there. So yeah, I'm sorry if I suggested otherwise.
Okay.
I wanted to be seen.
And if I might, through the chair again, Freddie, I know you're on mute, but the 4th quote design, I don't think Freddie intended that. I'm not speaking for to be a design. It's really a 4th place to consolidate some ideas that people would like to have incorporated into this. The designs might stimulate some thinking about different things that they might not. But that's I don't think, Freddie, I think you described it not as really a design, but as a just kind of how did you describe it? A 4th.
I don't know what I said, but I'm thinking of it more of a scratch pad type
Fair
idea
enough.
where you can put your ideas. Sometimes adding them into an already preconceived plan, it gets lost in all the other stuff and becomes clutter.
I
Like
agree.
one thing I saw that's not, I don't think's on any plan, is a water refilling station. In the old days, listen to me, we used to have water bubblers. You don't do that anymore, right?
well, that's
And-
because of COVID. It's supposed to be not healthy.
Correct. But what you do see now is a water refilling station where you can fill up your water bottle. And I saw this cute thing where down below they had a little spigot too, where you could fill up your doggy bowl. And, that's not on any of our plans. And if somebody thought that was a good idea, they may wish to draw it in. And they may wish to draw in just like greenery and not a lot of paths, one path, so I was trying to be more in line with what Kevin was saying too, that he could envision a more open and not trying to add more stuff into what's already a full park designed in all of the 3 plans.
Okay. Well, listen,
Note, if I may, Marguerite,
yeah,
I think we should make it clear to the public in case, people aren't following you know, at the meeting, in case they haven't been following our working group, that these aren't our plans, right? I mean, we contracted them out. We haven't agreed to them necessarily. We haven't even really discussed them, to be honest. I mean, we've discussed in general terms which ones we like, which ones we don't, but we haven't discussed any changes to them among the group. So, you know, they're not final, right? Is I think the message that should get across, and that's why we're doing this in the first place, is to get input, see what changes should be made.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, there could be consensus and we just haven't talked about it, but we didn't really discuss which is our favorite plan, which one we're going to go with and all that. And I think that's fine. Just keep it more open-ended for this.
Yes, exactly. It's still fluid. All right, so it is now 8:39. Do I have any more comments, questions? Anybody who's an attendee want to raise their hand and say anything? I have Karen Challen, must be a relative, right?
Yes.
Marcy Jones and Sam Stivers? No? All right.
Should we move on to the letter from the town planner and
Yes, and can we just, I hate to like not give this its due, but Grant, do you want to speak?
Just before you end, this is the planning. There are some supplies. I mean, are we meeting again before then to talk about that? Because I would think not, but I would hope not.
You
but
mean like copies, like
who's
copies
going to make
of,
the copies? Who's going to bring the little sticky notes or markers?
well, are you volunteering?
I can't do anything. That's why I didn't want to meet that week. I'm flat out.
I think that's going to be mostly a Marguerite job, in case
Well,
thank you,
anybody.
Marguerite.
Thank you, Marguerite. I just want to be sure somebody was in charge of it, taking
Yeah,
ownership,
yeah,
because we
yeah.
don't want to get there and not have anything.
Not have anything. Okay, so please feel free all week, all of you, to email me with things I should be remembering that I will add to my list.
I can do that.
Okay, yes, thank you. So consider
you.
me the administrative assistant for the stuff that needs to get done with that. So just send me emails for everything you can think of that we'll need. Easels, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Good. Thank you. Grant, do you want to speak to the Stonewall letter?
I don't know. I wasn't planning on presenting on it. What would you like me to speak about?
Whose item was it?
It was nobody's. It's open to discussion. It was CC'd to me by Mimi Luttrell, who was the head of the planning board, because it is discussing stone walls that are on the piece of land that we're talking about putting a park on. So part of it would be, are the stone walls going to be rebuilt, and are we going to put stone walls back into the park design? And
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can take a crack at it, Marguerite. I've
go for it. Right.
watched my fair share of planning board meetings. So essentially, I think what part of the letter didn't really apply to us. It was regarding School Street, but it went to the select board anyway. I think what the planning board and Karina, as their representative, was trying to convey, essentially, it has to do with scenic roads in town, roads that are designated as scenic under Mass General Law section 4015C, I believe. Is that right, Andrew? I could have gotten the law wrong on that one. Essentially, require a stone wall removal permit to be filed, and there's a hearing goes before the planning board in which they determine whether or not, on a scenic road, whether or not it should be removed. A similar process occurs for trees. And I'm just pulling up the letter here. And so essentially what the point that they made on the, and I think they used photos in the letter, was that there were a number of trees in the public right-of-way, which is owned by the town, not St. Mark's, as well as a stone wall that were removed without a tree hearing, or also removed without a, I don't know what you call it, a stone wall hearing. And so they view it as having been illegally removed. And I think where it comes into being relevant, potentially relevant for us, is the planning board can, if they desire, vote to have the wall be rebuilt in the same or a different place. But obviously, if the wall was to be rebuilt on the parcel, then it could overlap or interfere with plans for the current plans as they stand now. So I think that was the general overview of it.
I think we just need to be aware of this in the park design, because I think, what is the next step with this grant? What happens now that the letter's been sent?
So I believe I'm just looking at it here. I believe at the end of the letter, they requested that the select, sorry, in the packet, it's sideways. I'm just
Oh yeah, wait a minute.
just turning it right now. Planning board, they request, I think this was to the select board, that applications for a scenic wall, stone wall, or tree removal be appropriately submitted in a timely manner within the next month so that the proper process is adhered to and completed.
Right.
So I don't know what the select board, I don't know if they've reviewed this or what the response was, but I think the planning board, well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think they want to, figure out what happened to the stone wall, why it was removed, and potentially replace it.
All right. So
They have, to my knowledge, they haven't discussed in public meeting what whether or not they would replace it on the property. But of course, the letter does mention that that is a possibility.
Just to
right.
note that the stone wall that I think they're most concerned about, I'm not sure from the pictures if there were any on the public park section. It's on the parking lot at the intersection of where St. Mark's goes into Route 85. So if I don't know what the law is, but if the requirement is to replace where it was, that's a whole thing, that's in the middle of a parking lot. I could see that maybe they would ask for a replication. I have no idea. I'm just saying, I'm making this up. Conceivable replication somewhere else on the parcel, which could end up being on the park. But that's a hearing between the planning board and the Board of Selectmen. And I mean, I don't know if we would even weigh in and just be open to the fact that it could be a location for the replacement. Also for the trees, if they're going to replace trees that were taken down that shouldn't have been, certainly putting them within the park. But I don't know if I don't know if the requirements are where they were taken from that should be replanted or not. And I think that also would go to what we have discussed that would, to me, make sense, even though it's not the park exactly, but having the planning board do the site plan that's required under our zoning code for a parking lot,
For the parking lot, right.
which could give trees and better buffer, which creates the background ambience to the park. And that's why I think it has something to do with the park and not just separate. But I think that could be very important because, we're in a situation where this park is bounded by a road and a parking lot. And is that what we want to be in the middle of? Or could there be better plantings that would occur if the site plan for a parking lot were started
We're
and
started. Okay, so
Great.
let's
sooner rather
just,
than later?
right. So let's just say, for purposes of the meeting tonight, duly noted, and we are all aware of the fact that this is the first step in a process that we will be aware of and following. And so that should things work out in a way that our input is required, we will already be up and running with the information. Is that going to work for everybody? Good.
Yeah, and I think it's also just a thing to keep a heads up about. I mean, I honestly have no idea what they're planning on doing, but it is just something that could, that could
It's
alter the
definitely a
plan.
case of locking the barn door
So,
after the horse is gone.
As the group coming up with plans,
Right.
it could alter them. So it's
Right.
something to
Good.
be aware of. I don't know.
So-
if it's, yeah.
So Marguerite, so I believe that covers everything on our agenda tonight, except for another round of public comment if anyone wishes. But
Yes.
when you said that we'd move the planning board item with this one, did a member of the planning board plan to speak tonight, or is that just an
No,
item?
in fact, I would like to just like, I don't know what, I think when I wrote the planning board, I was actually thinking of the letter so that
Oh,
the
great.
agenda is faulty. So we are done with our business. If we have
Then-
any public comment,
Yes.
please speak now or forever hold your peace, at least until the next meeting. And shall we set a date for the next meeting?
Well, the next meeting will be the forum, won't it?
The forum, right. Do we want to set a meeting for after that?
I think we had a difficult time finding any date
Yeah.
after the 6th.
I think
Right.
I think we should come
We
back
don't
to
need-
that, Margaret.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Some of that was because Roger couldn't attend, which we don't need
Oh,
him in
that's
our
right.
meeting.
That's right. Yep.
How
I
is the
can't do the
27th?
20th.
The 20th is right after town meeting. I think we're all probably gonna need to take a minute to
Let's-
breathe. What
if
about
you
the
wanna-
27th? Is that too far out?
I would prefer to meet on the 20th and
All
then,
right,
Can't do the 20th because it's CPC meeting.
all right.
okay,
What about the 27th? Does that work
Okay,
for everybody?
okay, okay.
All right,
We do another week. I mean, I'm free on other days of the week. On the week of the, what is that, 17th? So it doesn't, I don't have to do it Thursday, but whatever, if you wanted to meet earlier, whatever works.
all right. I think I am sort of tied up with meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the week of the 18th. I'm okay with meeting at 7 o'clock on the 27th of October.
I agree.
All right,
Okay.
is that good? All right, any suggestions, whatever? All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, that's Freddie in a second.
Second,
All right, working group Landry, aye. Mr. Miller,
aye.
Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
and Ms. Gillespie,
Yes.
Mr. Sines,
Aye.
Mr. Farrington,
Aye.
okay, and Mr. Nichols Worley.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think this was productive, although we're probably all exhausted, yes? Anyway,
And
have
thank
a
you,
good
Roger.
week. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Marguerite.
Thanks, Kevin.